Hi everyone, welcome back to Backstage WA. My name is Kaylin.
And my name is Shannon, and today we're here with Mahesh Jadu, who has been on both Marco Polo and The Witcher. How are you today?
I'm well, thanks.
How are you feeling being back in Perth for a bit, just kind of visiting home?
Yeah, good. It's a lovely place to come and recharge and go back to zero again, reset.
So how did someone from Perth make it to doing global television shows and films?
I can't find that moment that I would say that's when that decision was made. It sort of dawned or brewed slowly. But yeah, I went to high school in Vic Park, Kent Street, did a cricket scholarship program there. And yeah, I think that, eventually once I left Perth to go over east to do a film, it really, for me as a person, as well as the actor, it started that journey. And I think after that, I got reps in the East Coast, and now I have a manager in America. I think that allowed I had to leave the Shire. In my example, I had to leave the Shire. I had to go out there and try my hand at what was happening in the greater world.
So what was that leap like from soap operas to being in dramas and fantasy?
Here, I went over to the Eastern States to do a film which never got released. Really, it was a film where I was playing the lead. It was a drama, and that was a really good experience for me. It allowed me to be in almost every single scene of a film and have to map out that journey. And then so when I went and did Neighbours for about a year or so, that was a different experience because now you're working with 3 cameras. Things are really quick, and you're not really getting the time with the director that you had in the feature film that was written by the same guy. So there was a very big technical difference in that, but it set me up to then know that there's a very broad scope in terms of skills and contexts that you need in this field to be able to work. So then after that, I ended up working on another feature, and it was a European co-production with India, I think it was, and that took me to the Gold Coast and then to India, and then I did it just kept going. Then I did an American film in Melbourne. These were just gentle steps for me, and that allowed me to learn the different roles that different people have, the different responsibilities we have as an actor each time. That changes depending on the film. Even to this day, I think my involvement in a character or in a project changes each time depending on the nature of it. So yeah, I don't know. It was a very slow burn for me.
What's your dream kind of genre that you maybe haven't explored yet?
I do like road films.
Ooh, classic Australian road film.
Yeah, anywhere. I mean, anything to do with travel. It's probably partially because it's the kind of life I live anyway, and I have a lot to reflect on, I suppose, in that.
So you have acted in long form series. What is it like having a character where you have to show growth but still kind of stay the same?
Well, there is a long arc, like you say, a growth for the character. On one hand, it's alive. The character is very much alive. Things are being written, not as you go, but there's a season written, and then there's some time. And even while you're shooting, there are rewrites, there are discussions that are happening about plot, about story, and they affect your character as you go. On the other hand, you're also around, especially on television, you're around different directors. They're probably the biggest variable, actually. You've got this character that's the same, producers that are the same, writers. Well, the writers change, of course, but let's call them the writing team. And then you have the directors come on, and they've got their own approach and their own visions. So if you're responding to that, it's not the same. It's very much alive. Different approach, different episode, different story within a story.
Do you get much of a say? Like when you did say like now there's so many different directors coming in, do you get much of a say over your character?
Depends, I suppose. Like I think it's different to film, television in that sense, because you've got a different leadership. You have the producers are more the spine of a television series. You can go and talk to them about ideas that you have, or yeah. And I think that sort of stuff means you've got to get in there early. You've got to be thinking ahead slightly with that. With film, it's a little more immediate, or at least you've got the director you can talk to, or maybe the other actors as well, and you can deal with things a little bit more on the cuff. But with TV, you've got to get in there, have a chat to the showrunner or the producers and the writers, perhaps. Yeah, I think you do have input. It's just in a different way, I think.
I have noticed Shannon looks a bit different. That's because it's not Shannon. What? Crazy. Amir, we have here, is one of our amazing crew, does sound, camera, does everything, and he's a big fan of The Witcher, and he has a question.
So you had a big fight scene with Henry Cavill, which is absolutely amazing. I love watching it. What were some of the challenges you had to, I guess, overcome prepping for that fighting, like choreography, working out and stuff like that? What was your preparation process?
So with this particular fight scene, I had a lot of ideas for it, to be honest, to begin with. And it's a negotiation. You have an idea for one thing, and then because in this project there's a lot of people that are decision makers. You've got producers, directors, you've got the story lore itself, you have the other actor you're working with, the weapon master. Everyone's got something to say about it, and that's the collaboration process. But in this case, I had certain things I really wanted to make sure were there. I mean, to make sure the weapon was a certain height so that I could use it the way I'm used to. It was a lot heavier than I wanted, but just adapted to it, I guess. And
that's where the gym came in.
Yeah, I actually had to stop doing any kind of exercise around that time because you just don't want to risk injury while you're doing a fight scene. But yeah, the actual preparation for the fight was quite interesting. I mean, I had it kept changing. The choreography kept changing, which is not easy to work with. And for the certain stunt that I was doing, or the certain kind of choreography I had this teleporting staff, which meant that I often had to shoot and train without a staff in my hand. I had to Marceau the whole thing. And that's not easy. And it actually gives you a lot of tension in the shoulders and in the back, because you've got to sell it. You've got to look like you've got something in your hand. So this was completely new for me. I mean, put a staff in my hand, I can use it, but put nothing in my hand, and it was something altogether different. Plus then that choreography changes and you've got to adapt again. We shot it over 5 days. Day one, we shot all of the stuff out in Wales on the beach, which is a beautiful setting for that. Made it very epic, And then the other 4 days on the lot in the boat shed thing. It was great. It was good fun. And every day I learned, I got better. Every day had to improve something, because each day had a different challenge, the fight's broken into sections. And Henry was really good to work opposite on that. There was a scene I had shot with him before that, but it was only a couple of weeks or a week before that. So this was all a new working relationship. And he has a lot of experience in this genre as well, and in the series, but also with fight choreography. So it was really a real blessing to have him just pull me aside from time to time and give me a tip, or collaborate on certain steps that needed to happen, certain things that needed to take place.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, amazing.
So, do you like playing the villain?
I do like playing the villain. I even have a little course that I created. One of my improvised jobs that I had was to teach students at film schools, acting schools, how to play a villain. And I always see the villain as the hero's greatest teacher. I think the mentor figure in the story can only take, it's sort of like high school, can only take the hero to a certain level, and the university degree is the villain. And as a result, I find that, I try and look for that in the work, if it's there, if there's space in the story to expand on what the villain is there to teach the hero. That's the first, I guess, thing I look for when that comes up, to see whether it's an interesting villain. If there's something profound that character can teach the hero. It is also a character I've played a lot. So in different stories, in different ways, even on Neighbours, I was like an antagonistic doctor. So I feel interested in other archetypes now. I want to explore something different. But at the same time, I think it's going to be one of my favorite characters to play, would be the antagonist or the villain, the anti-hero, I guess.
What's your kind of process when you've got a new script, a new role? Are you more of a research person? Or do you like to come in a bit more blind, method acting? Like, what's your kind of preferred approach when you're going into a new creative project?
I think each project requires a different approach. And because I've, learned on the job, that process is evolving for me. I'm kind of approaching each film or each project on its own merit. Sometimes it's a very physical prep. You have to prepare something quite physical. It could be it could be a form of choreography or a skill, or even voice. I think that's a very physical part of the job. For me, it has been anyway. A lot of relaxation and a lot of letting go to allow that to be more active in the role. But I tend to enjoy getting the script, especially if it's something I haven't read before, in terms of it's not another season of the same character, and reading it with a pad and pen and any ideas. And thankfully, my ideas, or rather my responses, are getting more and more abstract. They're not just literal, associations that I'm coming up with, but any impressions or any ideas, I could write them down. And something will really ping, and something will tell me, yes, this is worth exploring, and kind of go down that path, really. Yeah, I love script analysis. It's one of my favorite parts of it.
For sure. Are you interested in, I know you do a bit of writing, you said you have ideas for scripts you want to work on, but that's very, very directorial kind of filmmaking thing, is being really nerdy about the script breakdowns, because it's a lot of fun. But do you have ambitions to direct, produce, kind of work more on the other side of things at all?
Yeah, for sure. I recently started a production company with a friend of mine in Los Angeles, Nikitoshi, and it wasn't something I intended to do, to get into producing. I'm only just starting now, but now that I'm doing that, it's kind of formalized a lot of the ideas I've had for decades in my head, to kind of give it a framework, a ship for them to sail on, I guess. And I do want to write. I do want to direct. I'm probably going to do it very much like I've done the acting thing, just learning on the job if I'm given the opportunity. I suppose I grew up with mythology. It's one of my favorite things to read. Favorite things to do was to read and to watch stories, and it became something that naturally evolved into this line of work. And I think acting was something that I've always been on either side of a line, where partially feel there is a natural urge and a natural expression, and then other times felt so restricted and like I had a straitjacket on. And it's been like ice. It's been thawing and melting throughout this journey, and that's been a very beautiful experience for me as a person. And I feel now I have stories I want to tell on the other side of the camera as well, but not instead of.
Do you draw from mythology when you go, like things you've read in the past as well, when you go into these characters like Marco Polo and The Witcher and like such fantasy period pieces?
For sure. It's the way I see the world. I mean, if I don't bring it up at least once a day, someone asks me, how are you? And the answer comes back with an archetype. It's Yeah, I do. I tend to recognize certain patterns or certain images in the story arc, and that guides a lot of the recognition, or at least it gives you a little thread to pull on. You kind of go, hey, I know that. It also guides you where perhaps you on some of the rules you want to break as well. Some of the trends or the traditions in storytelling that everyone is expecting. If you know how it's put together, you also know what you want to alter if you do want to change it, for what reason,
Now, you have spoken beforehand, and you do like video games at the moment. Is there any video games that you're really into right now?
Well, I've only just gotten into video games. I mean, the last time I played a video game was Super Nintendo. And back then it was, Mario, it was Mortal Kombat. It still is Mortal Kombat. But I do love, I recently played Stray, and I recently played Ghost of Tsushima. And I was floored. It was such elegant storytelling. And I have now bought Witcher 3. So
Okay,
You're not doing some study for the role. Can you play as yourself?
I don't know. I'm not sure. I don't think so.
That would be awesome.
Yeah.
I would love that. They should make the Lego Witcher. When you can unlock all the Lego characters and
The
you can make
Lego
your own.
Witcher.
I would love that. Those were the best. The original Lego Star Wars on PlayStation 2.
I also bought the Lego Star Wars.
It's
No
so
way.
good.
It's really good.
It's so many layers of everything.
It's like watching the films all over again, but
You got to get a lot of coins.
I would
hero seat.
say sometimes the Lego films are better than the original films.
Why do you think that is?
I don't know. It adds like a layer of like humor to it. But some of them get quite emotional, like the Batman Lego movie. I was pretty
I love that
emotional
movie.
through that.
I love that movie.
Yeah.
To this day.
I feel like they really like honed in on DC's Batman really well in the Lego
I think
movie.
it adds a silliness, but without it being. It's like a very self-aware silliness that's inherent to the original, like the Batman premise, like the 60s show. And
Yeah.
they kind of hone in on that, and it's just
I think
works well.
I think with Batman, Superman, and the Joker, at least on the DC side, there's such rich mythology there.
Oh, yes.
And I think with something like Lego, they've perhaps allowed themselves to remove any responsibilities and of any other focus, I guess, on storytelling or in the film industry, and go straight down into myth and into what these characters symbolize. But yeah, I'm very fond of those characters.
Yeah, I'm a Riddler stan, as we know.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah,
She's
yeah.
like, don't talk about that. I went deep
No,
into that
Riddler's
whole.
one of my favorites too.
Yeah. Apparently, Batman, like Detective Batman, like the original comic, is about to go into public domain. So none of the other characters, like no Joker, no Catwoman or anything like that. But the original premise of Detective Batman is public domain. So write yourself a role. Detective Batman.
There is one comic that if I could have a shot at directing, perhaps. I can't even get hold of it again. I think it's called the Two Faces. It's called Two Faces, and it's if I remember correctly, it's Batman and Robin are pursuing this criminal, the serial killer, and they're always one step behind him. And one day, Robin looks a little deeper and finds out that Bruce Wayne has been so spent that he's broken, and he goes to sleep as Bruce Wayne and wakes up as the Joker, and commits the crimes, and then goes back to bed, wakes up as Bruce Wayne, and tries to solve them. And it's sort of turned the myth back on itself, as in the yin and the yang of the same individual. Kind
That's
of
an awesome
became
movie.
one of my favorite characters, Tyler Durden, I suppose.
Yeah. So what would you say is your ultimate favorite villain from movie history?
Many iterations of the Joker.
It's going to be Batman.
I also liked, I like a lot of rivalry stories anyway. And I think that sometimes makes the sidekick or the mentor or someone else the villain as well. I mean, I really like Tyler Durden. I don't think he's the villain, but there's a certain rivalry that's happening there. Daffy Duck.
He is truly a villain. That is
Yeah,
true.
I think Daffy Duck's probably one of my favorite villains.
Mhm.
I think there may be others, but until then, yeah, I'll go with those.
Thank you so much for coming in today. 100% sure everyone in the studio today was like so excited for today. So thank you so much for that. Thank you for your time.
Thank you for having me. It was great fun.
Thanks everyone for tuning into this episode. As usual, we would like to thank Limitless Studios for allowing us to film in their amazing space, and to Ian at the Backlot Perth, as usual, supporters. The rest of our supporters will be up on the slides at the end.
Thank you.
Thanks.